In a world that looks just like ours, one young man learns that the rules of physics no longer apply to him. David Rice is not special. At least, that's what everyone thinks. He's just an ordinary teenager in a small town, dealing with the usual teenage problems: bullies at school, a broken home, and a father who barely speaks to him. But everything changes on a winter day when he falls through a frozen river and doesn't die. Instead, David suddenly finds himself in the local library, soaking wet but alive. He doesn't know how he got there. But this is no hallucination. This is teleportation. And it's real. As days pass, he tests his strange new ability. He concentrates and jumps, disappearing from one spot and appearing instantly somewhere else. At first, it's a game, a thrill, but then reality sinks in. With this power, he can escape everything: the abuse at home, the limitations of his life, and the pain of being ordinary. David vanishes from his life, leaving behind his past, his school, and even Millie, the girl he secretly loves. He heads to New York City, determined to start fresh. He lives in a small room and learns to master his ability. Soon, jumping becomes effortless. He begins exploring new places: rooftops in Tokyo, beaches in Fiji, museums in Rome. The world is suddenly wide open. But freedom comes at a cost. David begins robbing banks, not out of greed, but because money opens even more doors. He studies vaults, jumps past security systems, and disappears without a trace. The world thinks it's a mystery. But for David, it's just another jump. Years pass. He becomes rich, stylish, confident, but also alone. No one knows his secret until someone finds him. A man named Roland appears, calm, cold, and dangerous. He doesn't ask questions. He just attacks. Roland works for a secret organization known as the Paladins. They believe no one should have the power to teleport. To them, all jumpers are unnatural, and all of them must be destroyed. David barely escapes with his life. For the first time, he realizes he's not the only one who can jump, and he's not the only one being hunted. In a moment of fear and nostalgia, he returns to his hometown and reconnects with Millie. She doesn't recognize him at first, but the connection is still there. He sweeps her away, literally, taking her on a spontaneous trip to Rome. She has no idea what's really going on, but the danger follows them. Roland tracks David to Rome. A fight breaks out in a museum. Chaos erupts. David teleports Millie away, still hiding the truth from her. But the time for secrets is running out. David soon meets someone like him, a fellow jumper named Griffin. Unlike David, Griffin has been fighting the Paladins for years. He lives in hiding, constantly on the move, building traps, and studying their every move. Griffin isn't friendly. He's angry, bitter, and tired. But he knows things David doesn't. The Paladins have been hunting jumpers for centuries. They kill without mercy, and they're everywhere. Griffin shows David what war looks like: burned hideouts, missing friends, ruined cities. David realizes he's been living in a fantasy, while others like him have been fighting for survival. But Griffin doesn't want a partner. He fights alone. Meanwhile, Millie begins to suspect the truth. She follows David, confronts him, and learns everything about the jumps, the danger, and the people hunting him. Her world collapses, but she doesn't run. She stays. That loyalty becomes a weapon. Roland captures Millie and uses her as bait. David is forced to make a choice: hide and survive, or fight back and risk everything. He chooses to fight. David teams up with Griffin for one final assault. The battle takes place across the globe, flashing between deserts, cities, and oceans in a matter of seconds. Roland is relentless. He uses technology to trap and injure jumpers. But David pushes his powers further than ever before. In one incredible moment, David teleports an entire room, with himself and Roland inside, from a burning building into a remote cave, isolating them from the fight. He finally overpowers Roland, holding his life in his hands. But David makes a different choice. He lets Roland live, not because he forgives him, but because he wants to prove that not all jumpers are killers. That with great power, there can be restraint. That was enough for today, but please do not forget to hit the like button and place the bell to get notified when more content like this is uploaded. Bye bye, see you in the next video.